Welcome everyone to this week's module on food photography. In this module, we're going to be discussing the importance and history of food photography, the market of food photography, some key photographers today in the food photography industry, lighting for food photography, and some pre-production for your photographic shoots. So you may be asking yourself, why am I studying food photography? Well, food photography involves more than just taking a snap of that delicious penne pasta with cream sauce you're eating for dinner. It's a lot deeper than that. At least theoretically, the subject is deeper. And whether or not you are just trying to show your friends what you happen to be digesting at the moment, you are actually participating in an art form that spans thousands of years. Food photography belongs in the still life category of art. So in this week, we're going to be focusing on why you are studying food photography. So why are you? Well, food photography and food still lifes is a traditional art form which spans thousands of years. Food photography is one of the largest photographic markets. Food photography teaches the basics of all studio lighting techniques. And food photography is a great way to learn pre-production planning. When you see a friend who just can't help themselves from posting what they had for dinner, you are actually witnessing an act that has been going on for centuries, only now with a camera. Whether or not they are doing it well is for you to decide. Search past all the great Dutch still life masters, and you can find still life paintings in the tombs of Egypt. Here you can see a fresco that was painted in Italy over 2,000 years ago, and they depict the foods that they were eating during that time, such as pomegranates and dates. Move up 1,000 years, and you can see that their painting has evolved to show some of the foods that they were eating in their culture, such as lobsters, lemons, oysters, and breads. Whether painting or with photos, this compulsion to show people a slice of our ordinary life is nothing new at all. The only problem is photographic skill didn't come pre-installed when the rise of technology placed an internet-connected camera in almost every person's hand. I so thoroughly enjoy food photography, not just to record, but to create. We create a world within the frame, a world we would want people to eat in, and food we would want people to eat. Does this world have any basis in truth? For the most part, no. The food is truly there, and we always eat what we shoot, but the story surrounding the food is a complete fabrication. It's not real. As it should be. No one wants to envision themselves eating at our sad yet practical kitchen table, sitting under the uninspiring fluorescent lights of our apartments. And it's this fabrication that we love so much because we are free to create a world in a different time or place. The information and the ability to create such a location is what we truly love and truly want to impart on you. So let's look at some of the photographic markets for food photography. Food photography is one of the largest markets in the photographic industry. And you can see here the amount of publications and opportunities food photographers have. This is by far not all of the publications and magazines that food photographers have opportunities to shoot for, but only a small selection, and some of the most famous ones. You can see Bon Appetit, Savior, Food and Travel, Food Arts, Food and Wine. There's tons of magazines and publications out there, all needing photographs for their content. Not just magazines, but cookbooks as well are great opportunities for food photographers. Every year there's thousands of publications and cookbooks printed, which means there's a great need for food photographs and people with skill who can take those photographs. Not just magazines and cookbooks need food photographers. Restaurants need food photographers as well. They need photographs for their menus and online advertisements to show people not only what the food is going to look like, but maybe the ingredient that they're highlighting for that month or that season. And every time a chef creates a new menu, restaurants need new photography. You can see that the food photography for restaurants here is a little different than the food photography you saw in the magazines. It's a lot cleaner and simpler and a lot more sterile. It depicts not only the food you're going to eat, but also the corporate or business aspects of the restaurant. When shooting for restaurants, you would most likely use the plates, the silverware, and glasses that they use at the restaurant and serve to customers. Here you're not only trying to show off how great the food of the restaurant is, but you're also trying to depict the style and attitude of the restaurant and establishment as well. Let's take a look at some of the most famous food photographers of today. Christina Peters is one of the most famous food photographers we have of our times. Her style is what I would classify as a very high-key corporate style. It is very suitable for cookbooks, for packaging, and for publications that would want a clean and sophisticated style of photography. You can see here that everything is very nicely composed, styled, and very clean and high-key. Most of it is backlit with lots of reflections. Everything is perfect and not very messy, as you would notice in other types of photography. The lifestyle she's depicting as well probably represents the lifestyle of the consumers for the publications she's shooting for. Diti Isiger is another famous photographer. Her style is very low-key. She shoots a lot for magazine publications and the editorial market. She also specializes in lifestyle photography. You can see by looking at these photographs that she works in a lot of series of images. This is her winter series of images. You can see that she also likes to work in the style that is similar to the still life painters of the Dutch masters in the 1600s. For her series, she chose a lot of winter colors and themes. Each photograph uses the same kind of colors, so they fit really well together as a series. She's also very careful to keep her photographs very simplistic, which also represents her style. Christina Holmes is an equally famous editorial food photographer. She shoots a lot for famous publications such as Savior and Bon Appetit. You can see that she pays careful attention to leave negative space for copy, but she also pays close attention to the composition of her photographs, using shapes and lines. For example, you can see the lines that she creates with the silverware very easily in this photograph, with the forks and knives pointing and framing the fish. Here we can see a good example of framing, with the rolls and the flour framing the main subject. She also likes to use a lot of other props that explain more of in a story. For example, the handwritten recipe you see in the top of the frame. With her style, she likes to use a lot of props. In her photographs, you'll often see many plates, cups, forks, knives, all perfectly placed around the image, which helps frame the main subject. Here's another famous photographer, Vanessa K. Reese. This is her series called Ninja Salad. With this series, there's a lot of human involvement. You can see the hands in each photograph give nice lines that point to the main subject. But like Christina Holmes, she likes to place a lot of props in her photographs which tell a larger story than just the main dish. You will see more of an environment in her photographs, with lots of props and lots of food. She also likes to include many people in her photograph, with lots of things going on at once. But you have to remember that each person is perfectly placed, as well as each dish is perfectly styled. I can assume that the editors of the magazines that she works for really appreciate her keen eye and attention to details. Sarah Coghill is a food and travel photographer. Although we're not seeing any of her travel photographs in this selection, we are getting a great sense of what a series is meant to be. Now, this is her series on pomegranates. It's a very simple series. In this series, Sarah Coghill shows us really how simple food photography can be. You don't really need to have a complicated and cooked dish to make beautiful photographs. She uses the common ingredient pomegranates and makes 8 beautifully styled photographs. I think it's important to note here that she also changes the background quite a lot in these 8 photographs. That way it doesn't become too repetitive and boring. It's a beautiful series and should be a real inspiration for you, as most students are on a tight budget and can't prepare and cook a lot of the fancy meals that you would see in other photographs of food. Katie Quinn Davis is a food photographer who's really making herself known in the spotlight. She has created a beautifully styled and photographed book of her own recipes called What Katie Ate. It also follows along with her blog, which is a very popular food photography blog at the moment. You can see that Katie Quinn Davis loves low-key styled images. Her images also show a deeper environment. Now that we've looked at some of the key photographers of the food photography industry, let's get started by adding some light to our food photography mix. Light is what really inspires our viewers. The strength or color of the light in a photograph tell us the time of day. The direction can speak of something beyond the frame. Bright reflections of light on the edge of a glass can really make you thirsty. The stories that light helps tell are endless, but at least a good food photographer should know what lighting a particular food calls for, not just a general solution. Good light will make your photo look delicious. It's the spice in what would otherwise be a bland image. Bad light will turn people off or downright disgust them. Light is really that important. So what is good and bad light? That's a tough question to answer. Good light in a photograph is subjective. Light is an aesthetic quality, and as with all aesthetic qualities, it's subject to personal taste. Food photography is all about the story you create within the frame, and light must be a part of that story and understood by the viewer. Good light needs a few things to be good. Good light needs a direction, a quality, a source, and a strength. In this tutorial, we're really going to be focusing on giving light direction and working with the good quality light. Food photography is also a great way to learn pre-production planning. And when we talk about pre-production planning, we're really talking about storyboarding and creating mood boards. This really helps your photography in a way to organize your shoot. If you create a storyboard before you pull out your camera and set up all your props, you'll find that your shoot will be much more organized and move a lot quicker, and you'll achieve a better quality photograph because of it. So let's get started making some good food photography.